Mercury and Gemini. Okay, so it's you guys' turn for me to talk about your communication style and your thinking process, how you learn, how you get your ideas out there, and how you best like to communicate your innermost thoughts. All right, so Mercury and Gemini, you are known for juggling so many ideas at once. These are the types of people who will try to multitask as many conversations and ideas and concepts and just contacts as much as possible because their minds are just everywhere and anywhere like all at the same time. Their minds are not likely to just like sit in one place and like really concentrate on one thing at one time. They can be a little bit scatterbrained in that way in just because they want to be everywhere like all at once mentally. So that can manifest as them trying to multitask with conversations. Like they'll be texting like five different people at once in like five different conversations while tweeting and writing a blog post while at the same time on the phone like with their mom. And it's just really really funny because they can handle it very well actually. I think this is a very useful talent that they have because in today's society we are always like on, we're always switched on, and I kind of feel like Mercury and Gemini has sort of a short attention span just because they do like to have themselves mentally and in so many different places at once. And like I said, this can be good, this can be a talent that they have, it can be an advantage when they have so many things going on in their schedule and they have to tend to a lot of things like all at once. And so, yeah, that could be a really positive trait to have, but except for when, you know, they need to stay in one place and complete an exam for like 2 hours. Like, what are they going to do at that time? Mercury and Gemini would have to learn how to stick to, one train of thought, one thing at a time. They've got to deal with, what's in front of them right now, like right at this moment, and, move on to something else, to the next task, in that order, like take some advice from a Virgo Mercury. They are very organized in like that methodical step by step fashion. And Mercury and Gemini can kind of like skip around here to there, because their minds are also very impatient. So that might also be something that contributes to them kind of being short with their attention span. And so it always just seems like they have so much to say about anything and everything. You could be talking about, you could be the one choosing the conversation topic, and then them not really knowing too much about it or having too much background experience with it, they can find like a million things to talk about it anyway. Like whether that comes through asking a lot of questions, or they tend to know just a little bit about everything so that they never run out of things to talk about, or they never come short of things to say with different people. They're the types of people who will have like little bits of trivia like just stored in the back of their mind for conversation pieces, like just starting random conversations with people. Like they're very good at that. They're very good at small talk. I feel like that's something that gives them an advantage because they thrive on conversation and they thrive on contacts and just making small talk, filling the empty silence. And this makes them really entertaining to talk to and very engaging to talk to, because they just never seem to run out of things to say. It's like their conversations can just like branch starting from like the main topic, and then it just like goes off and off to so many different tangents like all at the same time. And it's like it's just like the conversation just never ends with them. People with this placement can find it very easy to learn new subjects because they're very open-minded. The sign of Gemini is mutable, so this gives them that open-mindedness, that flexibility of their mind, of being able to absorb information very quickly and very easily. So this really makes them natural students. And Gemini, out of all of the mutable signs, are gonna love to learn. So Mercury and Gemini even more. So Gemini is naturally ruled by Mercury, and so you have your planet of communication and thinking in the sign that basically embodies Mercury energy. And so this is very useful, and it's very natural. It's a really natural and easy place to have your Mercury sign, because it makes you a strong thinker. It makes you very logical, and you know how to really verbalize or articulate very well the thoughts that you have, the ideas that you have. So it's rare that you're at a loss for words. And back to what I was saying about them being really good learners is that since their minds are so open, they love to learn about new things. They love to learn about anything and everything and just whatever it is, if as long as they can soak in some new information, they're going to be all over it. So Mercury and Gemini, you have a mind that is very attuned to learning and just collecting information. I feel like that's a huge part of what Gemini is, and even more so Mercury and Gemini people. It's all about the exchange, and it's all about the exchange of ideas with other people. It's not just about them getting information and like storing it inside. They have to have an outlet for it, and that outlet, they usually choose other people to be that outlet. And they like to have like this back and forth thing where they share a little bit of what they know, and then you share a little bit, and then you start asking questions, and it just kind of goes both ways. They love that, and their inner happiness really thrives on that exchange with other people. They're not going to be content with just keeping to themselves and keeping all this information to themselves. They love to have another person to bounce ideas off of. And your Mercury can also give you a little bit of a hint as to what it is you're interested in, or what your natural skills are. It's not just about like talking and conversation and thinking, but it also rules like technical skills and things that you're naturally good at, whether you like to do it or not. Yeah, it rules like handiness and skills. So your Mercury in the sign of that's all about versatility and variability. This can really give you a hand in being skilled at a lot of different things. So, like I said, they seem to know a little bit about everything. So, this can kind of leak into like their skill sets. I can see this, I can see people with this Mercury placement as just being sufficiently good at many different things, whether it be, through art or sports or writing or math or just anything, like think of all the subjects that you learn in school, and Mercury and Gemini, because this goes on with them being a fast learner, they're able to grasp it really, really quickly and apply that to their collection of skill sets. They could do satisfactory in each subject, but one disadvantage is just that their minds get so impatient to learn about the next thing and move on to the next subject that they kind of just leave their achievements where they are with that one subject and just kind of move on to the next thing. And this kind of gives Mercury and Gemini that nickname of like being the jack of all trades, master of none. So unlike maybe the earth Mercury signs, who want to perfect that one thing that they want to achieve, that one subject that they want to be an expert at, Mercury and Gemini isn't really so much interested in perfecting their craft, in perfecting their skill in that one particular subject. They just want to be free to explore and just move on to the next thing, move on to all different kinds of subjects. They're so interested in all kinds of subjects and in all areas, and because they're so open and because they have sort of a short attention span, like it needs to be constantly moving and it needs to constantly be receiving new information. So this can make them just a tiny bit wishy-washy in that way, just because they don't tend to stick with what they don't tend to stick with just one subject that they really, really want to be good at. Um, and it can kind of be confusing for other people in really deciding what a Mercury and Gemini really wants and what they mean. And this sign, this Mercury placement, can lend people to just kind of say one thing and kind of go back on their word on it. There's a little bit of that flakiness in Mercury and Gemini in how they communicate in their exchange with other people, because their minds are kind of a little bit like Libra in that it just kind of seesaws back and forth, you know. And since they're so busy trying to juggle so many different conversations, so many different contexts and ideas, it's like maybe sometimes they can even like confuse themselves a little bit. You know, this is not a Virgo Mercury that has things neatly organized and they remember the details of this one conversation with this one person, another set of details with this other conversation. Like, it's not as organized as that with Mercury and Gemini. They're a little bit scatterbrained in that way, and so they might lose sight of the little details here and there. They're the types who might even get their conversations mixed up with different people. It might appear like they are kind of like just going back and forth between many different types of people, and other people will have a conversation with them, and Mercury and Gemini is just kind of gonna maybe not really remember what they were last talking about with that person, or the stance that they held in the specific conversation they were having, and so they might flip-flop back and forth between different viewpoints, and this can like just kind of confuse other people because they thought I thought you said something different last week when we were talking about this, and now you're like switching sides. So here is the introduction of the whole multifaceted. I prefer to use the word multifaceted and not like two-faced, as a lot of people like to say. They like to apply that term to Geminis in general. And so with Mercury and Gemini, I like to call them multifaceted because maybe other people just can't keep up with them. Maybe other people just, they're so used to like talking to one-dimensional people that they can't handle like they can't handle like all the energy that Mercury and Gemini has, because they seem to have a lot of it. They have a lot of mental energy, and so this it can kind of just like shoot their brain out in like a million different directions, and other people just can't keep up with that. So yeah. I also feel that a Mercury and Gemini can tend to lean towards the indecisive side. They can get so caught up with just thinking about plans and thinking about what they need to do rather than actually doing it or making that decision. They're so busy just like considering possibilities. They like to think. They're not really doers as much as they are thinkers and deliberators and conversationalists. Like, they can just talk and talk and talk and and learn everything from all kinds of people and get all kinds of new ideas like just 24/7 throughout the whole day. And they can end up just not really doing anything about it or not putting it into practice. They're that air sign, so they're very much concerned with the mental, with the cerebral, with like theories and mental concepts. Like, how this can leak into them being indecisive is just the fact that because they're just so much more caught up in the mind, the very idea of things is just enough to keep them satisfied. They might just spend so much time thinking about doing something without actually doing it, and just considering ideas and thinking about the outcomes of certain things. So they like to juggle, their minds like to juggle. They like to juggle different options and consider different outcomes from different options. So this can make them into indecisive people because there's just so much going on in their head, so many thoughts that they can play around with, so many ideas that they can consider, and so many options that just entertain them. Just the idea of the option just entertains them. And so it's like that can be enough for them. That can just be enough to make them happy, where you know, just thinking and talking is their little happy place. Like, whereas like maybe a Mercury in Aries will think about something and then just do it, you know, because they're ruled by Mars, whereas Mercury and Gemini is they just exist all in the head. And lastly, these are the types of people who once they have an idea, or once they've thought of something really interesting to talk to, or just like, just a random piece of information, they're going to need to get it out somehow, whether that be through writing, whether that be through public speaking, through just friends, through texting. They're the types of people who need to vocalize. They need to verbalize everything that goes on in here. And there's a lot that goes on in here, inside of here. So they're going to need a wide audience. They're going to need a lot of people to really talk to and get all of that information out. Because it's also like their method of learning. And they it's a huge part of a Mercury and Gemini's life, because there's just so much going on in their brain. So many thoughts just running through their brain at like a million miles an hour. And so they need to get it out there. They need to have somebody to talk to. They need a partner. Remember that they're the sign of the twins. So this kind of symbolizes their need to connect with other people. Whoever it is, if it's just somebody standing in front of them in the lunch line, they're going to appreciate that, and they're going to use that basically to their advantage. So speaking, learning, expressing, and conceptualizing is a huge part of Mercury and Gemini, and I hope you gotten some valuable information from this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you have any other ideas for the next series I should be doing, because this one is actually the last video of my Mercury series, so yeah, I'm looking forward to starting something new very soon. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And follow me on my Twitter and my Tumblr accounts. I'm active on there like pretty much every day at Lunar Cappy. It's all in the description box. And I'll see you next time for another video.